Three applications to lead by. And so Proverbs 20 verse 5, I got in a rhythm a couple months ago reading a proverb a day, right?
Yeah.
And a couple months ago on the 20th, Proverbs 20 verse 5 says, the purposes of a man's heart are deep waters, but a man of understanding draws them out. And as believers, I believe that is our call, is to be in the world of people and to help draw out their purposes in their heart, from middle school to high school, younger, all the way up to retirement and until people, the end of life. And so that's what we're about. That's what the mission of Young Life is about, locally, nationally, and globally. So rule to live by, number one, we all want to be loved, pursued, and known. That never changes. That happens when we come out of the womb, and that happens until we go to eternity. Whether it's eternity with Jesus or without Jesus, we all want to be loved, pursued, and known. Everything is ministry. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, and everything that you do it all for the glory of God. We live as believers. We are ministers of the gospel. Some people, like Joe, he's a man of the cloth. He's a professional Christian, right? We think that only Joe does ministry. That's incorrect. If you are a believer, you are called to do ministry in everything that you do. Third one, never say no for anyone in whatever. I wonder if so-and-so would want to host a leader meeting. I wonder if so-and-so would want to come to the banquet. I wonder if so-and-so would want to do this, would want to drive kids to this event. No, I mean, gosh, Carlos, he's so busy. He's got so much going on. There's no way he would want to do that. Shame on us for ever saying no for anyone. Never say no for anyone. Last one is pray big prayers. For 11 years, I've been having a weekly hour of prayer, the hour of power, every Wednesday from 12 to 1. Started it in 2011 called TTYL, Pray Tyler Young Life. And this was my bedrock verse, Ephesians 3, verse 14 through 21. It's Paul's prayer for the Ephesians. And in verse 20, he says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. To him be glory in the church, in Christ Jesus, throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. And so I like to say, if God answered all of your prayers in the past 3 days, what would be different in your life? Would anything significant, nothing against a dog who has a hurt leg or my son who has a sore throat, those are admirable, honorable things to pray for. But what in our culture are we praying for only that Jesus can do? What is it that only Jesus can do? We live in a world that's full of bad news. Full of bad news. You turn on the television, it's depressing. We live in a world of bad news. But we as believers know the good news. As disciples of Christ, as folks who live out ministry day in and day out. In your community, just in LISD, there are almost 4,000 students. 4,000 students. In Pine Tree, another 2,000 students. So that's 6,000. That does not include Spring Hill nor Hallsville. Or Hallsville, wherever you come from. Hallsville. And so probably a really generous number of those 6,000 would be, say, 20% are plugged into some sort of ministry. Well, that 20% is a good number, right? That leaves 4,800 unreached. So that's a small city in East Texas, or a good-sized city, really, in East Texas. That's a small country. There are 4,800 souls in these two school districts that are longing for an adult to enter into their world. And so with that in mind, knowing that you have a purpose, you have a calling as a staff person, as a volunteer leader, as a committee volunteer leader, and people are waiting for you to ask them to come and be a part. And so we're going to drop down ministry and fundraising applications to lead by. I think Jesus is calling you to be a donkey fetcher. We see this weird kind of errand running by the disciples before Jesus is about to come into Jerusalem in Matthew 21. It says, Carlos, Muriel, y'all go into Jerusalem. There you're going to find a donkey. There you're going to find a colt. Go and untie it and bring it back to me. If anyone asks you what you're doing, tell them you're doing it for the Lord. I have spent 24 years of ministry being a donkey fetcher, running errands for the Lord. Have a field now. What am I going to eat today? I think it's Stanley's barbecue. I go to Stanley's. I see someone there. They're eating with someone. I meet them. And it's just a network of running errands for Jesus. Do people know that you're a part of Young Life? Are you talking about Young Life with people you meet with? Are you wearing Young Life merchandise? If you don't have any Young Life gear, maybe a collared shirt like Joe, have him buy you one. He will buy you one. If he won't do it, then I'll buy you one.
Like the white collar.
Yeah, he's already bought you something. Good. Have him keep buying you stuff. All right, so be a donkey fetcher. He's telling you to go somewhere, go and be obedient. And in that, God will be generous. The second one, we get to align a donor's passion with a kingdom-focused purpose. So many people out there, one, aren't really plugged into their church, aren't really plugged into anything, don't know how to share their faith, don't know how to study the Bible, how to read the Bible. We have an opportunity to enter into their world, find out what they have a passion about. Whatever it is, I can tell you that Young Life has an answer for that. Whether that's here locally, nationally, or globally, Young Life is reaching teen moms, kids with disabilities, kids, every kind of kid in the world. College students. Young Life is meeting folks where kids are in all areas, all avenues of life. So we get to align. How do we do that? We go, we listen, we find out who that person is, what makes them tick. And oftentimes, most people are not being asked those kinds of questions. Man, Reagan, what are you passionate about? What makes your heart beat? What is the Lord doing in your life? 95% of people are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But you know what? When I see this, I'm burdened by that, or I hear this, and I feel something in my spirit. People are waiting for you to ask those simple questions. The third one, information. 90% of what we are called to do is keeping our information, Longview Young Life, in front of people. That's what we do. I'd like to say, keep preaching to the parade. When Danny goes out into the hall, when the bell rings, it's just kids walking by, right? And he says the same thing over and over, whether that's have a great day, see y'all on Monday, stop running, stop cussing, put your shirt back on, whatever it is, he keeps saying the same thing. Danny, as an administrator, he's preaching to the parade the same information over and over and over. As believers, we're called to do that, as ministers of the gospel, and as Longview Young Life committee people, just having information in front of people. You can do that in social media, you can do that at family gatherings, you can do that in your small group, but you are sharing information with people. And how do you do that? You tell compelling stories. People want to know about lives changed. People want to know about transformation, right? I've had a book idea for 20 years or so, and it goes back to Facebook, believe it or not. So when Facebook started coming out, it was only for college students, and then people started getting their feelings hurt. Well, we want to be a part too. And people would say, Johnny, hey, dude, you need to get Facebook. My high school guy, dude, you need to get Facebook. I'm like, I think that sounds great, but tell me what it is. What's about relating? You get to connect and reconnect with people. I think we are designed to connect and reconnect, to be in relationship with other people. And I said, well, once you connect and reconnect, why don't you just call the person and hang out? And 100% of the kids that I've ever said that to say, well, I don't want to talk to them. I just want to see what they're doing. in which I respond to. I grew up in the 80s, late 70s and 80s, and we had people like that in the 80s, and we called them peeping Toms, right? Because they sat outside of people's lives and looked in, and I think we do that a lot with God. We don't want to necessarily really get in the trenches with God. We want to peep into what God's doing into Africa, into some foreign country, but God is at work here. And we need to have that 3-minute elevator speech ready to go. Joe needs to be just cranking out stories, snippets of stories, pictures of stories. Have those stories on your phone of, and you want to know what's going on at Judson Middle School? You pull up. You would not believe it. The color war. We had 50 kids. It was so unbelievable. You have access. You're ready to tell a compelling story. Fifth one, think people, not projects. How do you want to be loved? Not many people really pursue me, if I'm honest, but I want to be known. I want to be told I have purpose. I want to be pursued. I want people to remember things that I tell them. So when people talk to you about they have a retirement coming up or a surgery for their spouse or their kid or their dog, remember those things. Put them in. I've got 5,000 people's contacts in my phone, and probably 20% of those I have their birthday, their anniversary, their address, and I send them stuff. I pray for them. But it's mindless. When you put someone's birthday in your phone, it reminds you every single year on their birthday. But we have to be listening and engaging them. Nobody wants to be used for their money. Nobody wants to be used for their home. Nobody wants to be used for anything. But when we invite them in to be a part of what God is doing, it changes every single thing. Sixth one is how to show gratitude and appreciation. Man, shame on us if we are not the best in the business when it comes to thanking people. Someone comes to an event, you take someone to lunch, you hear from someone gave any sort of amount of money, $25 to $2,500. We want you to be thanking them extravagantly. I have every Wednesday, I have it pop up on my calendar. Am I living in extravagant gratitude today? Just a reminder for my heart that I'm living in a posture of gratitude. Seventh is celebrate the ask. Are we asking people to be a part of what God is doing here? Whether it's to drive, whether it's to sit at the table, or whether it's taking Joe and Heather to go meet a couple in your small group so that they can tell them what's going on and then to make the ask. You know, it is amazing in fundraising how many times I talk to people and be like, dude, I had a great lunch. I told them everything that's going on. I really hope that they're going to give $10,000. Did you ask them to give $10,000? Well, no. I'm just going to kind of leave that up to the Lord. I hope they're going to do that. But I'm like, you need to ask is what you do, right? You have not because you ask not. I like to pray very specific numbers. My boss, he likes to give them 3 options. Hey, we really want to, and you have to go in obviously with confidence and go, I'm going to ask for this amount of money, and minimally I think they are going to give this amount of money. I'm going to go in, I'm asking for $10,000. I think minimally they're going to give $2,500. We need to be making asks like that, inviting people into the compelling story that God is doing here in Longview Young Life. Y'all know the road. Some of y'all, I mean, the Peacocks, we've been at this 10 years, right? The Maldonados sat in the living room 10 years ago going, people, let's stack hands because this is going to be a long view. That's what I want y'all to have. It's not going to happen overnight. The lanes are an answer to prayer, a direct answer to us throwing up, begging Jesus to send us people who care about Smallville, East Texas. People aren't knocking down the doors to come to Tyler, to Longview, to Kilgore. some reason, these crazies wanted to leave the metropolis, the booming city of Prosper, to come to Longview because it's a calling. Jesus has called them here by name to come and be a part of that. And it is amazing.
They do miss the traffic.
They miss the traffic of projects. My gosh. And they want to know everybody that you know. And so setting up lunches, inviting. Some of it's going to be immediate. Hey, I want you to meet them because I want them to come to the banquet and potentially give $5,000 to camp scholarships. Others, it's going to be the long game. Right? Like, we want to get into this, the hopper of this foundation that we want to be a part of. Foundations, they're rolling off 5% of their assets every single year. Have to, or else they give it to the government, and they do not want to do that, right? So celebrate the ask. And I even like to go kind of put a goal, like once a week, I want to be asking people for something, right? It's not manipulation. Again, it's inviting people in to what God is doing. And after you make the ask, I like to say that the fortune is in the follow-up. It's amazing how many people never follow up. I was talking to a staff guy the other day. I was like, hey, did you ever connect with Carlos? No, I mean, I sent him an email and he never returned it. And? Like, that's it? Like, you need to be hounding people in the world of people, reminding them that y'all met, that you're trying to get with them, that they had a movement of the Lord in their life, and that you really do. You're inviting them into what God is doing. The fortune is in the follow-up. We leave so many leaders on the table. We leave so many committee members on the table. Young Life loses millions of dollars annually because we don't go back and ask people a second time or a third time. And that leads to, it's not on here, the ask. We want it to be transformational, not transactional. Kind of more people versus project. When people feel like project, it becomes a transaction. When people feel like people, it becomes transformational. That they get to be a part of something bigger than what they are doing. And so the fortune is in the follow-up in everything. Again, you heard someone say that their spouse was having surgery. Oh, dude, I'll pray for that. Most of us never actually pray for it. It's just like Christian lying. And then almost 99% of us never follow up on that day, especially if it's more than 2 days later. But if it's like, man, my wife's having a serious surgery in 2 weeks on the 14th, would you pray for that? Make a note in your phone to follow back up. I'm a shepherding elder at my church. I oversee 24 families every month. I consider them my Young Life kids. I call every one of those families. I call him and I call her. This family I went to high school or went to college with, SFA, every month they're praying for Christy to know Jesus and Hemi to walk deeper with the Lord. Last month, Alyssa said, pray for me and Hemi, that's a girl. We're going to be having an overnight together and pray for eternal conversations. That was for Saturday night. A month ago, I made note for this Saturday night, May 6th, to send Alyssa a text to let her know that I'm still praying for her, and I want her to tell me some compelling stories, right? We need to be that engaged with people. And when you tell people that you're going to pray for them and you follow up, I'm the best shepherding elder at Bethel Bible Church. And I'm trying to encourage everybody else, like, oh yeah, I call my people once a year or twice a year. What kind of shepherd are you? Right? I want a shepherd that's all up in my cheddar, that's in my business, wanting to know how they can pray for me. The fortune is in the follow-up. The last one is crisp list. Who are the people that are on your top 20 donors, your top 30 people, or people that aren't connected at all that you want to be in their world? Pray the list. Pursue the list. Go after the list. There is power in a list. It sounds elementary. It sounds fundamental, and it is the blocking and tackling of fundraising and being with people. Offhanded, you're at lunch, you hear someone say, oh my gosh, you know what? Come up middle school or high school, so I think so-and-so would be a great Young Life leader. In fact, driving here, I was on the phone with the Associate Regional Director in San Antonio, the South Texas region. Her name is Annie Mays. She said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to Longview, going to this lunch, hang out with the Lanes. She said, oh my gosh, one of my best friends from Pascal High School in Fort Worth lives there. She's around our age. I had pursued her. I think Joe had maybe reached out, got crickets. I go, Annie, will you please call your friend and ping her again? I'm going to tell Joe to ping that person again. Like, we need to stay on people's radar. That individual, young mom, 2 young kids, husband in the oil and gas business, we need to just stay in front of those people. And those people need to be on the CRISP list. So those are kind of just the 10 basic fundamentals and best practices, what I say, and those can be from volunteer leaders. You've got a banquet coming up. All of these things can be applied in every one of those areas, avenues. Does anybody have any questions, any comments, any violent reactions?
I like my list. My prayer list.
Yes.
The Lord answers.
That's right. That's exactly right. 100%. 100%. Yeah, the list is a powerful tool.
How have you seen committee, like obviously you're wired, fundraise, like it comes naturally, or it has, over the years. How have you seen committee members jump on board with your ideas and leadership and
Yeah, I say as leaders, Young Life staff, we need to be CROs, Chief Reminding Officers, right? That's our job. And so keeping reminders in front of, hey, Danny, you said you were going to do this. And it's not to micromanage. Some people really like to be micromanaged. I went to the dentist this morning and had my teeth cleaned, my tooth cleaned at least. And they want to put me on a system where 6 months out, hey Johnny, just a reminder, in 6 months on the 4th, you're going to be reminded 3 months out, 2 months out, a month out, and then it's every week. And I told them, you need to take me off of all that. I'm actually an adult. I don't want those reminders. And they're like, that's crazy. You're the only person who says that. Everybody wants to be reminded. And I tell people, or people tell me, is like, hey, feel free to remind me. I might forget, and you're not bugging me.
Yep.
And so really kind of just being a chief reminding officer, keeping folks, because Danny actually has a life. Young Life Committee is not his life. It's your life, and you've got a residual life, his residual life. These are all volunteers. So how do you encourage and push and challenge, but not wear them out, right? You don't want to be an annoyance and a bugaboo. But if they said that Danny said that he was going to talk to the Smiths about potentially giving a gift or being on committee or their daughter doing work crew, then you need to follow up with that.
Sure.
And in that follow up, and a lot of it is once we start exercising